Yes. What's happening? How are we doing, guys? Hope you're really good. Welcome to day 2. Let's get stuck in. So I am just going to do some admin here. So I'm just going to let everybody know that we're live. Okay, boom. Here we go. Okay, let's send this out. Cool. How are we doing, guys? Guys coming in. Hope you're good. So I'm just, forgive me, I am just sending out the link to everybody. I'm just sending the email and the messenger system. Cool. All right, who we got? Let me know when you're here. Let me know if you're watching live. Let me know if you're watching back. That's all done and dusted right there. Just turn me off. All right, so who we got? So what I'd love is your thoughts, guys. Early on, how are we feeling about the week so far? Okay, Tuesday night, we've done 2 days after tonight as well. We're going to get some more input on self-mastery tonight, but kind of like how are the emotions? How is the mindset? How is the optimism? How is the enthusiasm? How is all of that for you? How are you feeling right now about life that maybe you weren't feeling last week? Okay, let me know in the comments. Just a couple of words. You don't need to write an essay. Just a couple of thoughts on it. Good. Okay, so we've got thought-provoking, all good, excited. Is anyone else struggling with hay fever today? I have been battered. Getting some good clarity. Week is going great. I'm a little scared / excited. How are we doing, Hank? We've got Matt, who's in the house. We've got Mark, more positive and energized. Awesome. Reflection is good. It's helping see things in a different way, through a different lens. Good, I like that. That sounds great. What time is it? Cool, so we're going to get going in a minute. We're going to get started. Engaged and intrigued. Good, love it. Okay. Cool, all right, so let's get into it. So welcome to day 2. So before we get in, a couple of things to go through. So number 1 is, you guys have spoken about it a little bit in here, okay? I think there is elements of like overwhelm. I think there is elements of self-reflection. I think there is elements of feeling daunted. There is elements of where do I go from here? How do I start this process? There are lots of questions, and there's no doubt in my mind that 90% of you, if not 95% of you, are probably beating yourself up about where you are right now. Okay, this is not meant to be a negative exercise. What we're meant to do is what we would call, in my coaching world, when I coach guys, an unpacking process. And it means that we unpack everything going on in our lives to be able to actually see the core reason about why we're not where we want to be. And it is this phase is fairly painful, okay, and it is tough, and we're not where we want to be, but you're here and you're showing up. So stop overthinking the process. Stop beating yourself up. Stop being hard on yourself. Stop being in that pity party. Stop feeling low. All right, feel energized, feel optimistic, feel excited, feel like where on earth can my life go, right? We've done 2 days, we've only done 1 coaching session, and already some of you are starting to feel much better by looking at a lot of the stuff that's going on. What we're doing is setting you up for the win. We're setting you up to create a future for yourself, okay? To be able to show you what's happening, right? You wouldn't be able to do that if you weren't in this arena. You're in the arena now. You're showing up. You're in battle mode. You're confronting the man in the mirror. You're going, like, I'm not where I want to be. What are you going to do about it? And that's the question, right? What are you going to do about it? And what happens moving forwards? How do I now move forwards? I'm starting to have all these reflections. I'm starting to have all of these honest conversations with myself. You're dipping into a vision of the future and going, I don't want to wake up in 5 years and be that guy. I want to be this guy. Okay. And that's why it's so important not to beat yourself up on this process. Enjoy the reflection, enjoy the learning, but take it with optimism. Okay. Because optimism is absolutely key. It's absolutely key. It's the driver. It's kind of going, okay, we're not where we want to be. It's never too late. It doesn't matter if you're 60 years old. It doesn't matter if you're 35 years old. You've got your whole life ahead of you. And in my view, the way that I live life is that I'm getting to 100. So I'm not even at half time yet. I could still mess up for the next 4 years and I'm still at half time, and I can take everything that I've learned from my life so far and I can drive it forwards. And if you think about what I spoke to you about my journey, those 3 years that I spent in a deep, dark hole to the point where I just wanted to top myself, I used all of that as a positive to move me forwards. Okay. I always am a big believer in going, look behind you. Don't forget your past. Don't forget the mistakes. Don't forget the decisions that caused a lot of pain and suffering, because it's important to remember what it feels like down in that hole. So that when you are deciding now to strive and thrive forwards, okay, what you're actually doing is going, I'm moving myself further away from that version of myself. I never allow myself to forget how I felt in those 3 years, the things that I did, the people that I upset, the actions that I took, the decisions that I made, because it caused an awful lot of pain and suffering. And I don't remember it because that is the alternative version of me showing up. So don't beat yourself up. Where you are in life right now is exactly where you're meant to be. But what you can take charge of and take the reins of is where you're going next. Using all of that experience, all of those things that have happened, and using them to create the next best version of yourself. Does that make sense to everyone, guys? Because I think that is so important to understand at this stage of your development. You are a white belt. You are 2 days in. Okay? Some of you are going to come and work with me after this. And you're going to look back and we're going to have the discussion after you work with me for a year. And you're going to look back and go, I remember my day 2 and I was beating myself up. Okay? It is so important that you don't start feeling pity at this stage. Optimism. Make sense? So stop fucking feeling sorry for yourself, because no one cares. No one wants to hear about the negative. It's all about now what am I going to do? Now what you can do. I have presented you with some tasks that have made you open up your eyes. What are you going to do with that? Okay? Okay, so on some of the emails and some of the messages, there is a catch-up page. Okay, that catch-up page, I'm updating all of the links all of the time. So if ever you need to go back and watch anything at any point, you can go back while this week is happening. Okay. The other thing is that I want every single person tomorrow morning to take a listen to one of my podcasts, and I want you to listen to the podcast while you're doing the week. Okay, I think it's really important. The podcast is called Remember the Mission. Okay, it's on your email links. You just go to Apple, you go to Spotify, it's Remember the Mission. You'll see this ugly face and it will say Remember the Mission. Handsome face. That was very negative. And I put last night's live coaching session up. Tomorrow morning, I'll put this live coaching session up so you can listen back and you can reflect without having to watch the video. There are some other bits and pieces in there as well. I try to do almost a podcast a day on my morning walk. It is well worth the listen to start implementing some of that optimism into your life. Okay. Podcast backstage. Right, guys, tonight our backstage pass closes. Okay. I think we've got 3 or 4 lads who are going to join me tomorrow and on Thursday for a private workshop. Okay. So if you like doing the session, that's great. But if you want some extra one-on-one time with me, this is a limited offer. We close it tonight. It is at an absolute steal. The sessions are Wednesday at 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock and Thursday 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock. you can watch them back. But ultimately, if you can make those times and you want a bit of one-on-one time with me in terms of how we build your life mission, I'm only taking on 10 guys because it's a very private event. The link's attached to this post. You want to do it? Do it. If you want that extra bit of guidance from me, then come and join us. Okay, simple. Let's get on with the session. So yesterday, to recap, we talked about 2 seconds. Yesterday, we talked about building the blueprint, a man's blueprint to building a life mission. So we looked into the future to 5 years, and then we looked back at all the different checkpoints that we would go through to build a process. And then we looked at all of the development process that build the fundamentals. Okay. So then we have to build on them. And what we're trying to do is move away from the cycle of chaos and all of the things that come with that. In order for a man to be able to achieve his life mission, he must first self-master himself. You must become the master of your own life. Okay. And this is where the real key work of those foundations that I spoke about yesterday really come into play. And it is not something that you just go, this is how you do it, and then you get on with it. It's not like you read a manual, and once you've read the manual, you know how to do it. What's really important to understand about self-mastery is that it takes a long time. It takes consistent work. It takes doing the reps and practicing. Because when you self-master yourself, you have to be able to recognize the things that are happening around you, be able to be aware of them, be able to reflect on them, be able to analyze them to then improve yourself. So let me give you an example. I'm going to take Arsenal Football Club because I am a 30-year passionate Arsenal football supporter. Okay. But when I look at their setup, the reason that they have got so good recently is because they have mastered their mistakes. So when one manager left, there was this gap of about 7 to 8 years where they made constant mistakes. And then their new management come in, and mentors and people around them. And what they did was instigate a blueprint for success. And that is what they mastered. So when we look at how they built mental resilience, how they kept more self-discipline, how they led themselves better, they slowly mastered themselves to becoming a top 2, football team again. And they did that over a period of time, and they got better at doing it. They got better at doing it. And then when you look at it now, they are one of the most controlled, one of the most organized businesses, football clubs, sporting teams on the planet, because they've learned from all of those mistakes. They've mastered those mistakes, and they've mastered themselves on the pitch to the point where there is structure, there is strategy, there are routines, there are systems all in play to make sure that every single part of that organization works. From the backroom staff, to the players, to the manager, to the chairman, to the owner. And everyone singing on the same song sheet. And that, and that, I know I get shit for being an Arsenal supporter, is how you must look at your life. There are lots of different elements of your life that we have to master. You can't master them all at once, okay? Which is why it takes about 12 months for a man to transform his life. Because what we have to do is go to all the different parts or departments of your life to slowly master them, okay? And what we have is resilience, we have emotional conditioning, we have self-discipline, we have leadership, we have community. Okay, there is so much that makes up self-mastery. But what I want us to do is look at actually what is self-mastery first of all. So I want us to be clear. Now, whenever I do these things, you could listen to a different coach every week for the next 10 weeks, and there will be a different version or a different thought process of what self-mastery is. Okay, I'm going to give you my interpretation based on all of the guys that I've worked with, based on all of the professional teams that I've helped develop, based on my own development, and based on just my experience. Okay, there is no right or wrong. This is just what I believe self-mastery is. Okay, so for me, it's elevating a man to a higher standard. So right now you are operating, okay, and don't take it the wrong way, it is what it is. 95 to 98% of you are operating at an average standard, a mediocre standard in your life. Because if you wasn't, you wouldn't be here. And what you guys want, and when you wake up and what you're looking for in your life, is to be showing up at a higher standard. Okay, so that means that when we're at a higher standard, things are going to change in our life. The way that we look, the reflection in our mirror, in the mirror, the way that your wife looks at you, the way that she communicates with you, the way that your kids scream "daddy" the minute you walk through the door, and all they want is your attention, and that's what you give them. Your career could be 10 times further down the line. Your business could be 5 times bigger than it is if we were reaching that higher standard. And your life will be determined on the standards that you have. So if you say, I am going to maintain this high standard, okay, I've got to self-master myself to that high standard. That means that we have to build non-negotiables. That means we have to build routines where there is no negotiation. We have to build habits that no matter what's going on around you have to be fulfilled. And what we slowly do is build up those standards. And as you build the standards, the quality of your life changes. The outcomes change. The relationship dynamics change. Your body changes. The amount of money in your bank changes. Your attitude changes. Okay. So it's really important to understand what is self-mastery. For me, it's elevating you to that higher standard. When you have a higher standard, boom. And the biggest thing is being surrounded by people in that same boat, which is why I have a mastermind that I run of business owners. It's why we have groups for all success-driven type of men. When they're surrounded by the same people and by people around them, that lifts each other up. When someone's 20% and someone's 80%, they lift up the guy that's 20%. And we remember the mission all together. We have a higher level of thinking. Okay, so the way that we operate is different. Remember what I spoke about in terms of having a low emotional state and a high emotional state. Anything that happens to you that you think is a problem, when we get you to a standard, you don't look at that as a problem. You just look at that as everyday life. So if you're going, why has this happened to me? Why does it always fall down around me? I've seen some of the questions, and a lot of the questions start with why. That's in low emotional state, right? So it's not a high level of thinking. It's a case of going, right, why do I never have any money? Or how do I make more money? How do I build a side hustle? Okay. How do I get promoted? And we spoke about this because it gives you the steps for action. And when you have a high level of thinking, you're in a growth mindset. So when you're in a growth mindset, you can overcome challenges simple. And all the things that you used to be a barrier for you, all those things that used to be a wall to stopping you move forwards and reaching your potential, you just walk around because they're not a problem. What a problem is if you're told that you've got 3 months to live. Okay. What a problem is that if you go to war and you're sitting in a trench and you've got missiles flying over your head. We need to be able to put perspective on what problems really are, and getting so caught up in everyday dramas that they're moving you away because they're draining you of energy and they're moving you away from what you're trying to achieve on your mission. On your mission, on your process, there is going to be so many obstacles for you to face. If you do not self-master yourself and have a higher level of thinking, you're not even going to get past the first checkpoint. Okay, and that's important to understand, right? So when I look at people that invest in themselves, they have a higher level of thinking because, hey, they know that they have to invest to learn how to move forwards. That's what I learned. That's the number one thing I learned. Until I hired my first mentor in 2014, I was stuck at the same level. And it doesn't matter how many videos that I watch, it doesn't matter how hard I work, I couldn't get to the next level. Okay, because I didn't have that high level of thinking, because nobody was teaching me it. So I had to go out and invest in someone that was doing what I wanted to do and learn from them. And that's what a mentor is. That's what working around like-minded men are. Look at all of you guys in here. You're all like-minded men trying to achieve the same thing. That is when you have a connection. What is self-mastery? It's mastering your emotions and your mindset. Your emotions are probably the killer of your action taking. Because when you're not regulated, when you're overthinking, when you're impulsive, when you are reactive, you don't make good decisions, right? And that often holds you up. Like Billy Bob's pissing me off in the office, or Sally keeps slagging me off behind. Like getting involved in all of that, it's just playground antics that stop you from reaching your potential. You have to be clear-minded. You have to have the mindset, as cliche as it sounds, of a Jedi who does not allow anything to deter. When you are clearly focused on what you want out of life, all of the things that are distracting you do not matter. They don't matter. And you will lose people that you hang around with. They will go. You will lose them. Okay. Look at this here, what we're in. 280 men signed up for this. 60 people complete the first task yesterday, 57 today. Yesterday was 35 people live. There's 27 today. Okay. Before we even started this process, there was 100 men that did not even make it to the group. You're going to lose people. Naturally going to lose people. We're going to lose people. By Friday, I reckon that people watching live will be around 17. Because as the week goes, people will drop off. You'll lose those people. And that's because the emotional and the mindset, they just drift. They cannot get into it. They're so consumed in what's right in front of them. So if you imagine standing next to a tree and you stood right up against the bark here, all you can see is the bark. You're just reactive to what's in front of you. Whereas if you went on the mountain behind the tree, you could see for miles and you could see the benefit of the work that you're doing now. Okay? Does this make sense to everyone before we move on? If it does, just hit the blue thumb button. Just give me some comments that say, yes, it does. Just so like I know where you're up to. Cool. All right. God, it is hot in here. Cool. So the last one is self-mastery is an art. It is the art of managing and mastering your resilience, which is what we're going to talk about in a minute. Now, the self-mastery course that we do, so like in our community, the Remember the Mission movement, I did a sprint course. So for my members, what we do probably about 4 or 5 times a year are sprints. So we do 5 sessions, live sessions like this for our members for continued training. So the last one that we did was a self-mastery sprint. And there are lots of different topics that we go into, but the main one I'm going to focus on tonight is resilience. Okay. And I think it is just what we're going to go through tonight, in that sense. So it's building the art of resilience. So that in theory is what self-mastery is. Okay. So let's look at resilience. So let's do a deep dive into the resilience, why we need it, things that are happening around us, how we build it. Everyone happy with that? Everyone need a bit of resilience training in their life? And then what we do is we'll bring some examples of self-discipline into this. And we'll also talk about the emotional conditioning side of things as well. Okay, so resilience. For me, 4 key things. Resilience, number 1, is water on the fire. Okay, so what I mean by that is all of those fires that you've got going on in your life right now, when you have resilience and you build mental resilience, it becomes a lot easier to be able to put out the fires. Okay, and I call it putting water on the fire, because when you're in a really good state and working on yourself and building yourself and growing, all of those fires don't matter. Like 99.9% of the fires that are going on around you, okay, you can easily put out by just having the resilience inside of your mind. Okay, and all resilience is having a thicker state of mind. So if you imagine a force field around you, and that force field gets stronger and thicker and bigger and more reinforced the more you work on yourself, okay? So basically it's your brain and the way that your brain reacts to those fires. So I've put it here. I put thick-minded, but I don't mean as in thick. I mean it's thick, it's solid. It's like a vault. And all of the fires coming in, they just rebound off you, okay? And it don't matter. And all the things that used to bother you, they just don't bother you anymore. Because you go through a resilience level, and the more you practice on and the more you work on yourself, the stronger and the thicker that resilience becomes. And all the things that used to bother you, you're just like, whatever. It does not even bother you, allowing you to get on with your mission, okay? It's a flick of a switch. At some point, you're going to get stressed, overwhelmed, triggered, annoyed, whatever you want to call it, and it's being able to flick the switch to bring yourself back to self-regulate yourself quicker. Now, when you work on yourself, you are more conditioned mentally, emotionally, and physically. So when you're doing your morning routines, when you're doing your evening routines, when you're planning your time, your energy, and focus, when you have structure and routine and system in your life, and you're working towards something, there's more meaning to your life. You are thinking much higher, okay? You have higher standards, okay? You can flick that switch a lot quicker. So things that bother you, okay, will maybe last or stay with you for 4 to 5 days, and you'll sulk. And you'll be in a sulk about something. Someone would have pissed you off and you won't let it go because of your ego and because of your stubbornness. And your ego and your stubbornness will keep you in that state for 4 or 5 days. Okay. Whereas when you work on yourself and you become much better at it, you let go of things quicker. Because what we're really doing with resilience is we're learning to let go of the ego. And the ego is the one thing that the majority of men struggle to let go of. So if someone insults you, the majority of men react. And what I've come to learn over my experience for myself and other people is that that doesn't benefit you. It just drains you. It just makes you overthink about yourself. It makes you look at yourself in the mirror. When you can walk away and you can go, that doesn't even bother me anymore, you are mastering yourself. Okay? And it's not just about somebody saying something to you. It's about a work incident. It's maybe something going wrong in your business. Maybe it's an argument and actually I'm not going to let this continue ruining the relationship for the next 4 to 5 days. In fact, I'm going to apologize. I'm going to give her flowers. I'm going to make the effort. I'm going to do what I know is right, because doing the right thing is always the right thing to do. But getting into that state of mind and that self-mastery is tough. You've got to show up. You've got to do the work and it will happen. Okay. Does that make sense for everyone? Cool. And then I like to call my own word the bounce back ability. How quickly can you bounce back? What is your bounce back ability? When something happens, whatever, let's let it go. Do you know what I mean? There was a guy, I don't know if any of you saw this, on Saturday who come in all antsy, all stressed, all flustered, complaining about the messages, about the free course that he was going to get that is worth at least $1,000. He was moaning. I literally was like, there's no place for you in the group. Delete, get rid of. I never thought about him again. 5 years ago, he would have wound me up for the rest of the week. Okay. And that's where that development comes in, because you cannot control other human beings. You cannot control the government. You cannot control policies. For me personally, I just don't get people that spend the majority of their lives trying to get their point across all of the time to other people. And I'm just, sometimes I will, is it people watching? I will comment watch people getting into these arguments online, and I'm like, how much time are you wasting? And how much are you getting wound up about this? And who's going to suffer? Who has to deal with your now mood and your over emotional stimulation? Okay. And it's madness. But just withdrawing yourself and going, none of that even matters, is a huge self-mastery skill. Is it all starting to make sense now with resilience? Understanding that resilience. Okay. Okay. The people that we think are negative They don't think they're negative. They think you're negative. But that's the beauty, right? It doesn't matter. It's a difference of opinion. When you understand that and you drop the ego, I don't necessarily call negative people anymore. They're just different. They've just been brought up different. We are just have two different thoughts. People that have left or don't like what I do here will leave because we don't connect. We're different. There is no negative. There's just different. Make sense? Cool. All right. So why do we need resilience? So I'm just going to give you some examples here. Okay. Where do we need it most? So I've kind of done the top 3 things that a lot of lads struggle with professionally and some things deal with personally. If you want to add some of these in comments, absolutely, please do. Okay. So here, career setbacks. So maybe if you run your own business, maybe your business isn't growing as it should. Maybe the business is owning you. Maybe you thought you were going to work for yourself, okay, to have more freedom, and actually you just work for yourself, you're self-employed and you have no time, okay? Maybe you're not where you want to be in your career. Maybe you hate your job, okay? Failure, dealing with failure. We spoke about this yesterday. There's always this fear of failure. Maybe you are failing and maybe it's never failing, it's just learning. Maybe you don't know how to accept that. Maybe your ego is just telling you, actually, this is not how it's meant to be. You're no good. Your belief system goes through the floor. Your self-worth drops. You have no confidence. Workplace stress. So obligations, demands, work-life balance, all of these things kind of building up. Yeah. Do these resonate with people? Any more on there? Please put them in the comments. It's important to share what other people go through as well. Personal. So personal loss, divorce, separation, death, losing your job, being made redundant, losing your identity, not knowing where you're going. Okay. Health challenges. Okay. So maybe you've had scares, maybe you're overweight, maybe you're low on body confidence. These are common worries that we have. And then life changes. So like transitions. So like mine was a transition from the military to civilian life. Maybe you transition from one job to another. Maybe you're transitioning from a relationship split. Maybe you've just hit 40 or 50 or 60 and are like, oh my God, I don't know how to handle this age moving forwards, right? So what all of this does is create stress. Okay. So what resilience does is it manages our stress. Because when we're stressed here, that's when we are showing up as average. That's when we're not thinking clearly. That's when we're in the cycle of chaos. That's when there's brick walls and we can't get out of them. Okay. Who here suffers with stress? Okay. In the comments, be open. If you are just like suffering with stress, it's important to recognize it. All right. Again, it's not a negative thing. It's you going, man, I deal with stress. Like I deal with stress and I don't deal with it very well. And this is why we have resilience and this is why we have to build it. Okay. So there's 3 different types of stress for me. There's stress on your mental health, your physical health, and your emotional health right here. So mental health is when lots of people fall into this trap of I'm depressed and I'm anxious. Okay. And the problem is that we keep saying those words. Oh, I'm just depressed, so depressed right now. God, I always feel anxious right now. And as soon as we start saying it, as soon as the narrative starts saying it, because there is no resilience, our brain just automatically goes to that, right? We just associate our identity with depression and anxiety. It's what I used to do. Now, I wasn't clinically depressed and I wasn't clinically triggered with anxiety or labeled with anxiety. I just used to tell myself that's what it was because I couldn't explain or I didn't understand what was going on. What was really happening is that I just felt hollow. I felt hollow. I felt empty. I felt lost. I felt lonely. I felt vulnerable. I felt all of those things. Okay, which there are also always a solution. And what we often say is, why do I feel so lonely? Why do I feel so depressed? It's like, okay, how do I get away from calling myself depressed? Okay, so I'm just going to say, I'm going to be more honest and go, how do I overcome vulnerability? Okay, how do I overcome loneliness? How do I overcome a loss of identity? Okay, and then what we end up doing is changing the narrative from the why to the how. But when we're stressed, we go into this state here. And cognitively, okay, we don't become a good decision maker. When we're stressed, we lose attention and we tend to lose memory as well. So like these are the side effects. We don't have resilience, self-discipline, emotional connection or emotional awareness. We slip down this route here. And when we slip down in this route, we slip into the average mentality, the mediocre mentality, the, oh, woe is me. Woe is fucking me. Do you know what I mean? And I needed someone to come along at that time when I was like that and say, get yourself out of there. Let's go. Okay. Get yourself out of that mindset. You are where you are, but let's move one step one step in the right direction. Let's move 1% forwards today. How do we get out of that? How do I move forwards? Okay. And some of the guys that I'm seeing here in terms of the comments is, right, my life is stressful, but how do we make it less stressful? What are the steps? So let's identify the parts of that life that are stressful. It's A, B, and C. A is stressful because of this: time pressures, overthinking, not enough support, not enough communication in the household. Okay. So when we look at school runs, they're stressful. You're like, everyone's running around frantically because there's no order, there's no control, there's no structure, there's no system. As soon as you put all of that into play, man, the whole school run feels much better. One of the simplest things that I ever speak to my guys about in terms of doing a school run: leave or aim to leave 15 minutes earlier than you normally would. So the whole process starts 15 minutes earlier, and then there is less emphasis. Oh my God, we're going to be late, get moving. And then suddenly we start getting shitty with the kids, and then we're driving frantically to make it to the school. You know, and that could be the same for any routine or anything. Physical health, so stress, high blood pressure, okay, sleep, your immune system getting battered over and over and over again, cortisol running through your body, tight chest, okay, putting on weight, you want to comfort eat, drink, okay, that's when we slip and we have that low self-discipline, yeah, makes sense? And emotional. So we become erratic, we become short, and we become impulsive. So this here is what we don't want. This is how we overcome that. We build that resilience. So how do we mitigate like the resilience side of things? Okay. Don't worry if you can't see the writing. It's more for my notes. So how do we mitigate this resilience? How do we fight back? And this is what we need to know. So if we're going to achieve a life mission, we have to build that resilience. We have to build the next step is about how do we build resilience? How do we mitigate it? How do we do the things that are going to get us through this journey to achieve that life mission, to make us feel like we're finding purpose, creating direction, and embracing life much more? The majority of you won't be embracing life at the level that you want because you're stressed. And when you're stressed, you're tunnel visioned. You're in front of the tree. You're reactive. You're a nightmare to be around. And then you feel, God, where's my life going? And then we fall down the low emotional state, right? I promise you, if you put structure, strategy, routine, and systems in play, it will change your life. You put that into every element or department of your life. Remember the departments, and you master the SRS, structure, routine, and systems, and you get the strategies right, you slowly start changing the way you live your life. If you want that, you can do that, right? So mitigating, so emotional regulation, okay? Being able to regulate ourselves better. This is something we're working with our daughter because she's autistic, she's 7. So what ends up happening is that the sensory issues, overwhelm, too much talking, becoming very irritated, not wanting to go to school because she has to wear the mask. So we have to be able to regulate that. We have to be able to regulate ourselves to manage her better, okay? And it's only recently that we have come to realize that she is autistic. And actually it makes sense because we understand her behavior, that we need to make sure that we're leading ourselves so that we can be extra patient, so that we can understand her better. Does that make sense? This is where the lead you to lead them mantra comes in. So we do that in the mornings. We have morning routines. The wife goes off to the gym and does her thing. We come back, we come together on that school run and we pick her up, and we've seen the improvement over the last 4 weeks. And that's what's so important to make sure. If I was stressed and then I was trying to deal with a 7-year-old child that wasn't functioning in the right way, who wasn't regulated or understanding her emotions, we now are on a mission to go, right, how do we best regulate Alba before she goes to school? How do we regulate when she comes home? So she's done that decompression and that transition to then be at home. So we've got to master ourselves through that. Okay. So here, emotional regulation, meditation, breathing, mindfulness. Okay. So on a morning routine, I will do what is called an RPG. So R stands for reflection of where I come from, where I am, and where I'm going. That is important, because you've got to recognize the journey, the progression, and where you're heading. Okay. P is the water on the fire. It's perspective on everything that you're overthinking, everything that's going through your mind. So in the morning, I will purposely overthink everything that's going on. I'm going, you're overreacting, you're overthinking, that doesn't matter, that's going to be okay. And you're just putting perspective on everything. It brings your calm levels down. And then the G is the gratitude. So being grateful about where you are. Where are you right now in life? What is going well for you? What are the things that you're winning at? Not, oh, my life's awful. It's recognizing how good your life actually is, because you forget how good your life is right now. Okay. And it's important to understand. And when I do the interview with Marcus tomorrow, guys, at 12 o'clock, Marcus had everything. He was working, great family, bang. You've got 6 months to live. You've got stage 4 cancer. There's nothing else that we can do. His journey is incredible, and I'm not going to spoil the journey. But you think that you have an abundance of time to get this right. You think that you've got all of these problems, but you don't. Okay. And understanding how to emotionally regulate yourself by being grateful is huge. Like, we're never going to be at this opportunity again. I realize that I'm 46. I realize that in 10 years, man, I keep struggling with my lower back. Maybe I can't be as mobile. Maybe I can't grapple anymore. Maybe I can't do my ultra runs anymore. But while I'm alive here, I want to make the most of everything that I've got, of my limbs. Do you know what I mean? Problem solver. Okay. So change the outlook. What you think are problems are actually opportunities. Think about a problem that you have right now. Okay. There is an opportunity behind it every single time. Okay. And that is how I've always programmed my mind. And it is a way that you program yourself. Okay. You process yourself, and you make sure that the way that you look at something, nobody else sees, because everyone sees the problem. Okay. Everyone sees, oh my God, this is happening. This is happening. No one's coming to save you. Remember, this is your journey. You have to do it alone. You have to be the problem solver, because those problems don't just disappear. You can't bury your head under the sand, then come back out and go, has that problem gone yet? You have to be able to confront that. That's what we do as a man who is leading themselves. You confront the problem. You look at the opportunities. You go, how do I solve this? What are the opportunities? How do we go about this? Let's go. Make sense? Boom, boom, boom. Okay. Positive outlooks. Positive outlooks. Hopeful. This is kind of confirmed with my thing here earlier. Hopeful, optimistic. Look beyond the issue. Look beyond the issue. Okay. So the majority of my problems come from me running my businesses and all the different ventures that we've got going on. And one of the things that I learned over the last 10 years in business is that if I become short-sighted and look at the problem that's here, I stop thinking about the mission. So whenever I have a problem here, when we have a positive outlook and I see on the horizon, there's a war, there's a battle coming, there's something I'm going to have to deal with, there's hardship coming, there's stress, there's overthinking, I always remember the bigger picture. And the positive outlook is always being optimistic that actually if I have a bad 4 weeks, if I have a bad 4 months, it doesn't mean that I have to have a bad life. It means that we're going to ride this storm. I'm going to own it. And on the other side, we're trying to aim for that mission that we aim for over the 5 years. Okay, so having that mentality makes you a lot more aware about your surroundings, your emotional state, your mental state, how strong you are in terms of your resilience. So if you practice that over and over again and you do the reps, you become so much better at it and you become stronger and you become the man that you need to be. You become the asset of your life and you become the leader of your life. That's what leaders do. They look ahead. They can see where they need to go. They see what they need to do. Okay. And when I look at the guys that I work with on my mentor group or my top 1% club, that's what I'm training them to be. If you run a business, you have to make sure that the man is running right before you run a business. Okay. And if the man is not right, the business will crumble. Okay. So you've got to build the man first. If you're a family man, if you want to be a good family man, you have to build the man first. And then you become a good family man. Okay. Use social connections. I saw some masculine bullshit on Instagram the other day about this guy who works with men saying that men should never show their weakness to their wife. They should never show vulnerability. They should never talk about the things that they're going through. And I had to regulate myself because all I wanted to do was go in, let me get on this computer and leave a comment. And the reason that I didn't is because I didn't have the energy or time to get in a conversation, because I know that would just have a ripple effect and I would probably spend 2 hours justifying my point when really I've got my point and the guys that I work with, I can help that point. I'm a big believer that our wives, the people that were around, the community, so those people that I work with, is huge. We should be telling our wives and our partners exactly what's going on in our head because they don't know. If you're struggling and you're coming across as disconnected or uninterested or distant, they think it's them unless you tell them. They're going to go like, he's never communicated me. He just looks like he's miles away. That's because you probably are struggling or carrying something and you're not expressing yourself. And one of the biggest things is that, like, I am the leader to my family. And my wife respects me more because I can put my head on her shoulder. And when I'm having a bad day, I can have a cry. I can even say that to you quite comfortably. I can quite comfortably say that. Within a week, I might even just cry once. But in a month, I might cry 2 or 3 times because we have to be able to get it out and show those emotions. I don't give a fuck. And if someone judged me on it, I don't give a fuck. They would just put them outside of my world and you crack on with your life. Being open and being vulnerable in front of the people that we love is so important. Communication and understanding is the foundations of a community. And when you build resilience, knowing that your best friend, your wife, or your best friends around you, the people that you hang around with, that you can speak to them. Like when we say we need to talk more, right? Obviously, nobody ever does talk. Nobody ever does open up. But actually just verbalizing really helps. When I talk into my podcast in the morning, I'm talking to myself. You guys are listening, but I'm talking I'm verbalizing. When I go out with some of the guys, I'll have a few beers and be like, yeah, oh my God, blah, 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 and you rant and you get it out and you're like, God, I feel like I've taken off a weighted vest or something. Now I'm fucking ready. And that's important. That is important. And then lifestyle choice. Okay. Lifestyle choice. Exercise, diet, structure, routine, and system. Keep doing that. Keep doing the reps. Keep pushing forwards. You're going to win. Okay. You're absolutely going to win. All right. So how do we build that mental resilience? All right. I've put a couple of things here. Growth mindset. So a growth mindset is something where you overcome challenges. It's where you're looking into the future. It's where you want more for yourself, more for your family. And you want to be around those type of people. You invest in yourself, time, energy, finance, whatever it's going to be. You guys are doing it right now. You guys are doing here right now. Okay. Growth mindset. You're here because you want to grow. Am I right? Practice mindfulness constantly, all the time. Mindfulness is checking on yourself, building yourself, growing your mind, learning more about yourself, self-reflection, self-awareness, opening up, okay? Having a life mission, that brings a process. So when you have a process, you're going to have ups, you're going to have downs. It's going to be like a hill, a set of hills. You're going to have the good times, you're going to have bad times. If it's how you get better again from the bad times. Okay, so we're down here, we're going to get back up here as quick as possible. And the more you do it, the bounce back ability, the flicking the switch happens quicker. Support network, we just spoke about. So adapt to change. There was some resistance in this group, having read some of the messages where people are refusing to change their belief system, and it has only been 2 days, okay, in the way that they think. And it's important to understand that when you change, your identity is going to change. The people that you hang around is going to change. Your language will change. Your actions will change. You're going to evolve. Adapt and overcome was one of my favorite mantras from the Royal Marines. Adapt and overcome. Get ambushed, you've got to adapt and overcome or you're dead. Okay, so you've got to be light on your feet. You've got to be ready to change. If you don't, and you go down a route that has resistance, that doesn't benefit you, you'll crumble. Okay, health, exercise, constant exercise, challenge yourself, sign up to things, put yourself out of your comfort zone. Like the more you put yourself out of the comfort zone, the more resilient you become. Okay, that's why I did 100 mile. That's why I wrote books, because I wanted to prove like my doubters, myself wrong. Okay, solve problem. This is important. Solve problems. Don't be the problem. Okay, solve problems around you. Okay, solve problems around you. Don't be the problem, because when you're the problem, you're up here, you're in a cycle of chaos, you're in your average mentality, you're not showing up for the people around you. And then self-reflection and learning. So key. Self-reflect on everything that's happening, learn from that self-reflection. Does that make sense for everyone? Okay. So there's a lot to take in. And I think what's really important for you guys to understand that this week, this is just 5 days of insight. There is so much to take in, but you have to practice it. You have to do the reps. Like I can only teach you so much in an hour before your brains fry. And that's what we've done there. So I've kind of given you some taste of what it takes or what will happen for those people that will go on to try and build up their life mission and build themselves up. Okay. And all of this will come over time. This is like, all of this will happen over a 6-month period. Okay. Over a 6-month period. This is not like, right, we're starting today. This is how you need to be, right? This is giving you the lay of the land. All right. This is kind of it. But now you need to go back to the start, and we need to start on the first day. 1% a day, every day, forever. Make sense to everyone? That's cool. That's cool. Cool. So guys, we're going to answer some questions now. So there were some questions that were put up today. So let me just put this in here. I'm just going to put this link in the comments. So I've got someone who's just messaged and asked for the backstage pass. So just a reminder, guys, the backstage pass is 2 live Zooms with me tomorrow. I'm going to help you build up your life mission in terms of where you're going to go. Okay, we're going to extract stuff from you. It's going to be conversations. It's not just me talking to my phone. It's the favorite type of thing for me. If you want to come on board with that, I think we've got like 6 places left, guys. We can't take any more than that. What the fuck? Sorry, my fucking thing's just gone. My stand. All right, okay, let me answer these questions here. There's a lot of that makes sense to everybody. So what I would really like is for you guys in the group to let me know what you thought of self-mastery. Okay. Why I just get the questions up from today. Okay, here we go. I've got all the questions. All right, guys. So, coping with an operation after operation and now injury that is slowing me right down. How do I put better actions in place? Like, I'm just going to be honest here. If you're fucking injured, you're injured. There's nothing that you can do. All right. And this is a big thing. This is an ego thing. Okay. What better actions can you put in place? Well, if you are limited by injury, nothing. You can't speed yourself up anything. Acceptance and controlling your ego is your biggest friend right now. What are your limitations? What can you do? Do that so that you don't injure yourself further. Okay. I think that's the biggest thing, Big Sigh. Understanding the process that I see with the man in the mirror, which I get and want to change. What tools can I use to keep pushing forwards without the mental frustration of what path is right? Is the path right? And how am I going to get there after the 5-day challenge? Okay, so in terms of, you are never going to know whether the path is right until you take it. And the best thing to do is take as many paths as possible, because what you end up doing is narrowing down over a period of time to the things that you've tested until you're left with the things that are working well for you. This is like marketing. When you do marketing, you test lots of different things. When you guys looked at my ads, if you come in here on the ads, or you come on here on one of the links, you would have seen different videos, different pictures, different pieces of copy that I wrote. And it's testing different things to hopefully resonate with you. And it's the same with your life. You're looking for things that resonate with you. You're looking for things that work alongside you, that you understand and that are going to help you grow. Does that make sense? Off the back of the chaos cycle from lesson 1, asked you a question in main group. The work we are doing is making me feel more chaotic. Assume this is normal. I think it only becomes more chaotic because it's new. Anything that just comes into your life that is like, man, I've never been hit with that type of information before. How do I process it? Well, you go back and you watch it again. And you go back and you listen again, which is why I put it up in a podcast. And then you start breaking it down and understanding it better. It's like when you start algebra for the first time, you're like, is this fucking guy serious? Like, how am I supposed to do that? And then suddenly you start working at it and it becomes more simple. And over time, you end up getting an F in maths. So that didn't work with me. But things are chaotic at the start because you don't understand them. It's just repetition over and over and over again until it becomes second nature. What I'm teaching you here, whenever I work with men or sports athletes or companies, it's about making things non-negotiable. It's about the long-term change. Okay, not the quick fixes. How do you ensure my planning and focus ensures I cover the blind spots? I was meaning the way that I see myself and the ways I deal with things in the eyes of others' eyes. I also have unconscious bias around certain situations. Okay, so how do you ensure that my planning and focus ensures I cover my blind spots? So I think if I got this right, I might not have. So I apologize, Gareth, if I have got this wrong. I think there's an awful lot of overthinking on here. Okay, so when we plan, when we show up, when we build a life, what we need is constant feedback from people. So like the people that work with me will ask for feedback off me. The people that are in our group as well, they have coaches. There's literally a coaching group going on right now for our members. Okay, and they will be asking one of the coaches and we'll be getting feedback. And when you then do your own feedback and your own self-reflection, I always often ask my wife, am I being a dick? Okay, am I being short-tempered? Because what we see through our eyes isn't always what is interpreted the same in other people's eyes. Okay, so I thought last night's session, I performed terribly. Like when I watched back, I was really disappointed with how much I swore last night and how quickly I spoke, where I put my microphone, the way that I presented myself. And you'll be like, what are you even talking about? But then the way that I planned that session, I didn't show up how I planned it. I hadn't done one of them in ages. So I was a bit like frantic in my own eyes, and nothing ever is the same. So that's why I reviewed that and went, right, I don't want to swear as much tonight. I want to be a little bit calmer. I still want to be passionate. And it's just about picking up on your performance every single day and going, I want to improve it a little bit more. I want to improve it. And that's what our guys do. They plan, then they do their review at the end of the week and they go, I planned too much. I planned too little. I was a little bit selfish with my planning. I could have done better with including more of my family. I could have got more workouts in. So we're just constantly self-analyzing ourselves. I hope that makes sense. Why is it that every time I want to change? So notice the first word that out of this question, why? What does that stand for? Low emotional state. Why is it every time I want to change things, life gets in the way? Like tonight's live. I've been called away in an emergency, so I have to do a catch up again every fucking time. So what are we talking about here? Self-regulation, stress, erratic, short, impulsive, when it doesn't matter. If you get to watch it back, you're here. That's what matters. That's what matters. How do I make sure I've caught up on the information and I'm at the same level as everyone else? I finish whatever I'm doing and I watch it back or I listen to it on a podcast in the morning. No problem. It's not a drama. It doesn't matter. So when we lose our temper like that, it's for no reason. We've wasted energy doing it. So cool, I'll catch up later. It's not going anywhere. I hope that makes sense. And I'm not like on top of you there. It's a good example of how we can change that mentality and self-master ourselves. Hank, how does one stop fight or flight response from PTSD and being on constant fight? Seems like such a deep ingrained part of me that goes full throttle. I don't know what that text terminology is. SHTF, making me a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Again, it's self-reflection. So a lot of the stuff that we're talking about is like understanding. So when I had PTSD, I used to keep a journal. So I would call it an emotional journey. Every time I would have an episode, I would write it down so I could understand what the triggers were. When you understand your triggers, okay, you can then manage those triggers. You can then avoid those triggers. You can then become more resilient to those triggers. And that's how I slowly but surely managed to deal with that trauma of being in a new environment, having a new life. I used to look at all of the triggers. I used to look at all the things I was saying to myself. I've got this whole big book in the attic of like everything I kept, and it really made a huge difference. I hope that helps. I'm 2 weeks into a 5 a.m., 5 days a week. Does it get easier? I'm knackered by 2. It does get easier. I remember when I first started mine, I still sometimes have a quick cat nap. I mean, this morning I was up at 2:30 with the kid. She went straight back to sleep. I was awake. I got up at 3 and just started working. So I've been on the go since 3, but you condition yourself. It's like going to the gym and you're lifting the weights. You build the muscle, you get stronger. You build cognitive conditioning over that period of time. Who is Big Phil? I still don't know who that is. I'm going to check with my team, find out why they put that name in there. It's funny. Cool. All right. Okay, cool. Guys, how did we find tonight? Everyone enjoy it? I hope so. Tomorrow, we're going to start putting together a 28-day mission. Okay. If you want to join me for the backstage tomorrow, you've got till midnight tonight. Tomorrow, I'm going to, I've got a huge announcement for you guys. For some of you won't be interested. Some of you will be banged up for it. But it's going to be your opportunity. It's going to be an invite. Okay. And that's all I'm going to say. And I'm going to introduce it tomorrow at 7:30 before we start the session and we start planning your life mission. And I'm like really proud of everything that we're going to like put out to you tomorrow. Okay. In terms of the announcement. Good stuff. Everyone seems like to have enjoyed it. Remember guys, and I always say this, take what I teach you or teach the points that I give you and take what you need from it. I'm not a guy who is a guru. I'm just a guy who has a lot of experience at this. Not everything you'll agree with. You might not agree with the things that I say. You might not agree with the methods. You know, that's fine. But there'll be some gold nuggets in that you can take away with you and that you can improve your life. Okay. Good. All right. So tomorrow, 12 o'clock, be in this group. I will send out a message and an email. You must make sure you catch Marcus's live. Okay. It is powerful. The guy is incredible. Okay. Which is why he comes to work for me. because he has such an amazing effect. At my Remember the Mission seminar, we had 110 guys at our seminar at Aston Villa Stadium last November, and he got a standing ovation for his speech. He is an incredible human being. When you listen to him, you will never complain about life again, because he's incredible. And then tomorrow I will bring you your huge announcement, and we will plan out a 28-day. Okay, it's going to be exciting. Please try and make it if you can. Just tell the wife you're busy, making yourself into a god. See you soon.